Welcome to the Meditation Podcast. You can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, and you'll find the links in the podcast description. We also have the Awakening Podcast, Learn Polish Podcast, Speaking Podcast, and the Crypto Podcast, and all can be found on roycollin.com. Today, my guest, up early for me, please welcome Chris Plourde. Did I say it correctly, the surname?
Yeah, you got it. So thanks for having me.
No problem. Parlez-vous français?
No.
That's all I know.
No. I know. Right now, we're not going there.
So you might let the listeners know. Who's Chris?
Yeah. So I'm a conscious performance coach. I work with different companies, individuals on really helping people reset and redirect the programming that has been instilled at them at such a young age. You know, I love working with people that they're working towards that second mountain in their life of not only success, but fulfillment, happiness, and purpose. And, you know, we have a modality of tools that we use, everything from, you know, one-on-one coaching to group coaching, of course, meditation, breathwork. You know, I look at all areas of someone's life and really see how I can not do the work for them, but, you know, hold the mirror up and tell them some truth so that they really get a chance to shift what's not working and move in the direction that their heart needs to move in, that they were put here on the earth to really just move forward and do, so that they're impacting themselves and everyone around them. So.
And it's strange that you cover all the modalities, because normally, you know, some people, they just go the business route or whatever. But I look, because I feel like I do the breath work myself, I do the meditation, and I feel that is, you seem to be hitting the nail on the head. I think that's what they should all be kind of covering them aspects.
Well, I look at it like, you know, I look at it in the 5 areas of your life. You know, we look at professional area or your higher purpose. Some people have already worked and they are looking towards higher purpose. Personal lives, you know, with their relationships with others and themselves, physical health and wellness, financial, and then spiritual. And I look at those areas intentionally, because if one of those areas is out of true or not working, then it's going to affect all the other areas. So for example, if you're, you know, having issues with money and scarcity, you're going to be making decisions in your business that aren't necessarily the ones that you should be making. So if we can not look at the relationship you have with money and view it in a different way, more of an abundant way, then you're going to be coming from more of that right brain type of work, where you're going to be much more creative, much more empathetic, much more in action, innovation. And that's where I try to get my clients to come from, not the scarcity survival part, but from that place of power.
What would you say to people that are kind of in that zone, but they're kind of watching the pennies and don't want to spend it to get the good? Because I know the benefit of having a coach, but a lot of people think, I don't have the money to do that. And it's probably what they need to make the shift, because they tend to stay there for years.
It's really interesting you say that, because, you know, I respect people that are watching the pennies and making those moves based upon saving. But I'm trying to get to the energy of why, you know, what are they saving for? Where does that come from? Is it come from their parents when they were teaching them at a young age? You know, you got to make X amount of dollars in order to be happy, or you got to have this. And a lot of people inherit that energy from their parents. I know I did, you know, that mentality of just getting by or not having enough, or when we win the lottery, we're going to be happy type of thing. But if we can get them to come from more of a give and take, an exchange, right? What you put out there is what you get back. Then I think their whole world is going to open up. You know, for example, when I first hired my coach, I did it from a place of, oh my gosh, I got hired or I got elected to this new organization that I was running, a studio that I had 40% of my income coming from the studio I was working at. And that shut down 2 days later. And we moved a week after that. And I was like, what am I going to do? Right. And my wife, she looks at me and she's like, I think you need some help. We got to hire a coach. So with money that we didn't have, we put it out there, and I looked at something different than I didn't have. And within 3 months, she was able to really get me to connect and come from a different energy in a different place, where not only was I able to make that money back up, but tenfold it, within the 6 months of working with her, or year actually that I was working with her. So it's what you put out to the universe is what you get back in ways that you don't necessarily know exactly, but it comes back. But you got to be willing to take that chance and step over that edge.
No, absolutely. And I think sometimes people, they're when they're in that, I suppose, sense that, they're watching everything, they get depressed, and like they're very busy. They're doing 60 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, but they're doing the stuff that's not actually productive. When they have somebody, whether it's a mentor group or a coach, they'll get them focused. Stop doing the silly stuff. Stop, trying to get the likes on Facebook. As one person said to me recently, I thought it was brilliant. How do I convert the likes into money? I thought it was brilliant. Because you see loads of it, people with millions on TikTok and everything, and you're wondering, are they converting? Some people are, because they're very clever with the sponsorship and everything. But it's like, can you convert it?
Right. It's really, I've had so many different people say, it's not about the social media, it's about the people that you know. And then some people are like, it's about the social media. And I really think it's about what your joy is, what it is that you like doing. If you cannot stand making posts and doing these likes, and it's like, going through mud and just, it feels awful, then maybe that's not what you should be doing. Maybe the focus should be something else. But again, is it coming from energy of your mentors or someone else's success, or what you should follow, your own success, your happiness? Because that's where the reprogramming gets to shift things, is not coming from other people in comparison, but coming from yourself and what it is you're trying to climb next.
And I've seen, you've had some prestigious clients that you do. Are you doing all the breathwork and meditation with the employees of these companies that hire you, or is it just specific areas that you're doing?
Sometimes, yeah. It just depends on, I just got back from a retreat in Cabo with 50 CEOs, a part of this organization they were working with. And, I was taken in to do a half-day seminar with them. So there's all sorts of questions, breakouts. Part of that is the breath work and meditation, getting them to have breakout rooms and then an integration of what they got from the day. We had some other really uncomfortable things that they got to do. But it just depends on where we're at. If I'm working with a sales team, which I'm currently working with, not only am I presenting to the whole team at meetings, but then I'm working with them one-on-one. And then some of them are requiring, a breathwork session. Some of them need just to learn how to meditate properly, how to journal. So, I take it on a person-to-person basis, whatever it is that they may need, that's the tools that they can acquire to make their lives and their journey a little bit better.
Excellent. And because I know there's all different types of breathwork, and I've tried a lot of different ones. Just curious, what's the one that because you're actually teaching it as well. So what's the one?
That's right. Well, there's short ones where we can do like the box breathing, of course. But where I really went through some deep training is with my teacher, David Elliott, and it's more of like a holotropic breath work. So I'll teach classes once a week, and you can I have a free one you can do on my website, which we'll get to later. Your listeners can pull that off. And basically it's a moment of just have a subject or something we can focus on. And then it's a deep inhale, holotropic, deep breathing through the mouth for good 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending how long we go, set to music. And then as I guide them through, I'll get different hits and have different questions for them. And, hopefully we're able to just unlock or unleash whatever they're holding inside and get them to really connect to their soul. Because I think so many people, the beauty of breath work is it really enables you to take off the layers and the masks that we've been putting on for so long and get to and feel the feelings that some of us don't allow ourselves to feel. And I love that aspect of watching someone go through that process. And I think breathwork is a beautiful tool to get someone to that place within their heart. So.
And like, because I mean, we all know that so many things that are going on in the world, run by a lot of corporations. Like, I believe that somebody that's involved in this, because I mean, I know so many that are doing it, but they seem to be at a different level. They're not out to kind of get the next guy. Is this a way that we can actually change the mentality inside an organization, that they're not out to actually hurt humanity?
The short answer is yes. So, and here's why. I think, when I first took breathwork, for me, the first thing, I sat up off the floor, and I was teaching at a meditation studio in Santa Monica, California. And then they offered breathwork, and this was like 6 or 7 years ago. And I took it for the first time. I sat up and I was like, I have to teach this. Like, I cannot keep this to myself. This is something, a path I need to embark on and share with everybody. Because what I got was a sense of purpose, a lightness, a shedding of heaviness that was on me, a understanding of I'm exactly where I need to be. Right. I don't have to lead from ego. Right. It was about creativity. It was about knowing. And so I embarked on that. And what I see with leadership today in today's world, unfortunately, it's collapsing slowly but surely. And people aren't connected to purpose and to what is going to make this world and humanity a better place. And so what breathwork enables us to do is get really vulnerable. And I think being vulnerable is a big part of what leadership is lacking in today's society. Not all companies, some companies really understand that. But if we can teach leadership in a different way than it's been taught for years, and using breathwork as one of these tools to get them to connect to not only themselves, but to each other, there's a sense of just like, I see you. I see who you are. Like I see what you went through. I see the life that you've lived, and I can hear it in your voice, and that deep connection. The silos come down within this, and we're able to see each other's souls as opposed to just seeing them as a competitor or someone who's out to get them. And I think if we can align that energy up and use this, it could shift the world. It could shift organizations. We could communicate a lot better and stop coming from a place of being triggered, all right, and come from a place of how can we work together towards this purpose. So
I'm actually delighted that they're actually open to that. That they're bringing people like yourself in. That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah. Another thing I've worked with for the past 14 years is a lot of men's organizations around North America. And that's about what is modern masculinity and true leadership. And so we're able to take them, not necessarily from men from companies, but have them meet up in circles and go through leadership training programs and attend weekends and really get real and find that missing piece that hasn't been taught to them at no fault of anybody around them, but nobody, like our parents, for example, they did the best job with the tools that they had, right? Our mentors did the best job with the tools that they had. They thought they were doing great, but somehow we miss something along the way, and we get to our 30s, maybe 40s, and we go, there's something missing here. What is that? And it's up to us to kind of reprogram ourselves so that we're feeling that fulfillment, like I mentioned earlier, that happiness. And so this is one of the things that I think a lot of men, I'll just talk about that for now, and women, but men are looking to really do and grow in. And so there's that as well, is modern masculinity and true leadership. So.
And even kind of going down that realm, like, I mean, a lot of times growing up, people were taught, like, for a man to cry, it was a sign of weakness. Whereas, expressing your emotions is the best thing that you can do.
Totally. I grew up super sensitive. I grew up in East Coast, south of Boston, a town called Brockton. It was a very blue collar athletic town. And I was in therapy in 3rd and 4th grade because I was so sensitive. I was crying. I thought there was something wrong with me. So I convinced my parents to take me to therapy. And then I realized, I go, you know what? I'm going to man up and I'm going to push all these emotions down and become an athlete and fight my way through high school and not be bullied ever again. And even in college, and then get a great corporate job and that's going to be the answer to all my problems until it wasn't. And I did all those things. And then I realized what was missing was my sense of emotion, my sense of feeling. But there's a big difference, I think, that I realized. You can be victimized by your emotions, or you can own your emotions, right? And there's, or your stories in life that happen for you. And when you can own those stories that happen for you and share those stories, that gives other people permission to do that just as well. So I think it's owning, it's being vulnerable, it's being authentic, it's being real. And it's not burying and pretending you're something you're not, because I know a lot of men that are doing that right now, and they're going through some really tough times in their life, especially over the past 2 years during this lockdown, where we were sent to our rooms and we were forced to face things that this lockdown didn't bring us. They were always there, but they were just magnified because of the fact that we had to be by ourselves or with loved ones or whatever the case may be. But we were looking at these now, what do you want to do with it? Because they're always there. It's a matter of, can you see them? Can you feel them? Can you heal them? Can you own them? And that's where I think we're heading.
I think, because I know just from talking to a lot of my guests and just being close with a lot of people, like, you mentioned, being bullied and stuff. I was the same. But I think a lot of the time we look back at the journey, I think it makes us stronger, like emotionally, because you don't fear, like, especially during this time, I don't fear people, like even like police and stuff like that, or judges and things like that. I don't know, was it from my childhood that gave me that strength or what, but there's a strength in me that I don't fear anything.
Yeah. It's, you're mentioning that, I was, here in the States, we've had a lot of issues with police and all this over the past couple of years, and their emotional state. And I have a neighbor he's an ex-special ops guy, and he's a cop in LA, Los Angeles here, a police officer. And he talks about the lack of development in men, and they're taking that place, that piece of them growing up in their 20s and not really developing or maturing in the way that they need to. And then they put them in these leadership positions. And it's like, well, no wonder we're having problems, and they're trying to protect us because they're not connected. They're not taught properly how to deal with emotions. So they're coming out in ways that are really affecting and impacting the society in a negative way, as opposed to a positive way. Because that's what we're looking for, is being able to see that there's an immaturity there, something that didn't resonate at such a young age. And now we have to fix those problems because nobody taught them that this is okay to feel. This is okay to be. This is what leadership should be. So it's really interesting to kind of see what different societies, I'm sure you have it in your country as well, all these different things going down in these fights and things that shouldn't happen, but do, because people don't know they're acting out because they've been burying their emotions and feelings for so long. So
sometimes I wonder, like with the hiring process of, like, say, police officers, are they because they can they know more about you than you know about yourself sometimes. Like, are they recruiting the ones that are compliant? In other words, like, that's why a lot of them know they'll batter peaceful protesters when deep down we all know that's wrong.
That's right. And because I don't think so. What they did here is they pushed the hiring age up from, like, say 20, I think it was like 21 or 22 to like 24, 25 now. Because again, it's a maturity, it's a sense of self, it's a programming that we need to reprogram, that isn't working, and it hasn't been working, but they're not being honest. They're putting up a front and they're putting on all this armor, and masks that isn't authentic, it isn't real. And it's coming out in ways that, like you just said, that aren't healthy for society. So
I always like, I don't know what the age of retirement in the States for like military and, you know, the police, but I think it's like 40 in some countries. And they should basically leave them like the rest, but to be on the side with the younger guys, because the experience, the maturity, like I couldn't see, you know, policemen or whatever, like in their 40s or 50s, that would actually comply to that. And, you know, whereas you have a bunch of young guys, right, they're just doing what they're told. And, you know, I think a mixture would help as well with what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you, they're in Navy SEALs and special ops trainings now. They're implementing breath work as part of their training. So they're doing that to teach them to get those emotions out. So that is happening. So hopefully that'll bleed over to the rest of society and what we're doing and how we're developing leaders in this world today. So. Yeah. And
like with the breath work, you know, the way you can, like, if you go heavy in it, you know, you can kind of get like into a psychedelic state. Is that something, like, even on the psychedelics, is that something that you get involved in, or is it just through the breath work? Yeah.
No. I've been in psychedelic work for 7-8 years now. And, you know, I have kids. My wife is involved in it with me. When we first took it for the first time, you know, when we did our first journey in a safe setting.
Is this the ayahuasca one? Is it that you? Yeah.
I've done ayahuasca, but this was the first one I did. The one I'm talking about is more of like a heart opener mixed with like psilocybin in a group. So that was the first one. And when I first took that or did that, I was like, wow. I mean, I was connected to everything, to myself, to my wife, more than I ever have been before. It was absolutely incredible. It was something that we really embarked on for, you know, 7-8 years. We're still doing it. But the whole point was, how can we be better parents? How can we work on ourselves to be better examples for our kids? Right. I was able to heal some triggers that I had with my father, who was an alcoholic, in one of those journeys, and see where I got a lot of those ties from. And so to the point now where I don't even get triggered by him. I mean, I can just see him and I love him for who he is. I mean, he's a good man. He's a great man. He's had his own struggles. So I was able to see and embrace that. And there's hundreds and hundreds of other stories based upon what I've been through, what my wife has been through, and how she's healed herself with her mom and other things. But what this is it gets a chance to, like breath work, is to peel back those layers and, you know, and really look at why you do what you do, the programming that was instilled in you. And then it gives you an opportunity to reprogram, not just have an experience, but how can we integrate what we got from that 6-7 hours and then bring it into our lives and in all areas of our lives, like we were mentioning before. And so I did that first. And when I took breath work for the first time, it was the closest I got to a psychedelic experience. So it was like, this is why I have to teach it. And so, yes, I've been in that. I've been in ayahuasca circles, many different types of plants and so on and so forth. It's been a really amazing journey. So
I don't know, was it called DMT or something? Basically, like the liquid on your tongue takes about 2 hours to kick in. And then it was like maybe 8 hours. It was such a beautiful experience, you know, in a safe environment with a guy that you could trust, shaman, you call him, whatever. And like, how often, like, I mean, I haven't done it since. It was when I was in Costa Rica, but like, is it something once a month or is it something once a year? Like, what's the kind of...
It sounds like you did LSD, by the way. I could be different, but yeah, I would say, so just full disclaimer, like this is, you know, we're still getting it. There's a lot of studies and a lot of people, we're trying to make it legal here in the States for therapy, PTSD and depression and all this. So studies have shown really remarkable results from this. So depending on where you're at, you know, for us, it was every 2 or 3 months to begin. Now it's maybe a couple times a year or once a quarter, just depending on when we're getting called to it. But the biggest thing is, you know, we try to keep it as sacred as possible. I mentioned before having set and setting, right? Some people will try to get their hands on it and take it, and they might not be in an environment that allows them to go through the process they need to go through. And I can't stress this enough. This is so important to have the healing experience, and that you need is to have someone oversee you. And so that if you go down a shadowy tunnel, a dark tunnel, that you're able to kind of have that lifeline to come back to. Because a lot of people will talk about their college experiences or different things that they've done, and their set and setting wasn't designed for them. They didn't hold it in a sacred space. So when and if they have the opportunity to do that, make sure it's around the right people, right? That are able to be there for you and support you in ways that you might not even know you need support in yet. So,
totally agree. Yeah. And the meditation then, because like you're teaching that as well. What kind of meditation are you doing?
So I do different guided meditations. Sometimes it'll just be silent meditations. It just depends. Transcendental meditation, which I got taught to some years back. It really depends what you have, what you need. So if you've never meditated before, maybe it starts with a free app. Like there's a ton of different apps out there that will just kind of guide you through it. Me personally, I try to meditate twice a day for 20 minutes or so. But if you've never done it before, it's one of these things that you might want to spend 5 minutes, just to you're building muscles up to this, and you're having these thoughts. And some people come into meditation, they think, well, I'm having these thoughts and I'm not doing it right. Well, every time you have a thought, you catch that thought, you bring yourself back to presence. That's you getting a little bit stronger. That's you really understanding, oh, I see you. I see that. The thought's part of me. We have 70,000 thoughts a day. Of course, something's going to come through your mind. But bringing yourself back to the senses and the center is what meditation is all about. It's all about trying to get you out of that left survival brain into the right brain. And so you could sit there and go through a guided meditation. You could sit there and focus on your breathing. You could focus on your heart rate. You could listen to a song. You could simply rub the ridges of your fingers together, right? And feel the presence of that. You could smell a smell, taste a piece of food and really feel the texture and taste what is what you're ingesting. Like all of those things, being centered and in the present moment, to me, is what meditation is all about, is bringing yourself here. Not what you've done in the past, not what you're about to do, but in the center right here is what it is. So trying out all these different things is just something that I think everyone should embark on, to better themselves, to connect to themselves a little bit more. So
I started with the guided meditation first, too much clatter in the head, and eventually realized, I don't need this. And now it's more mindfulness, just being totally present with everything I do. But I just find time slows down. You get so much more done, when you're when you're present, and that's why you should do it. I mean, I keep telling people, they go, I don't have time for meditation. It's it's when you do it, you get more focused, and then you're not all over the shop.
Yeah, it's just your discipline to do it, right? Like a lot of people commit, they're great at building businesses or going through their workday and structuring things out. Well, what if we said that, if you brought on a meditation practice, that you would be 30% more successful? You would live 10 years longer. You would be 20 to 40% happier. Like, these are studies. And it's not just about sitting there and going, okay, I'm going to sit there and shut my eyes and make a weird sound. It's about, again, getting present, right? There's a whole program I went through called Positive Intelligence. And their language is geared towards corporations. And he does do some contemplations or meditations, but basically what the whole essence is a 6-week program to get you to catch yourself from being in that sabotage judgment place where you go to in life, and to get yourself for 2 minutes at a time to get present based on those things that I just talked about tasting, smelling, hearing, walking in a gentle way, like just connecting to your body. And when you can do that 2 to 3 times a day, even for 2 minutes over the course of 6 weeks, you're burning new neural pathways in your brain. You're creating new habits that you wouldn't create. You're lowering cortisol levels, right, that are causing stress. You're stabilizing your nervous system so that you're not so all over the place, because when all of that's out of whack and awry, then the body's going to create a disease within them and lead to something that you might not want to see later in life, because these are all about whispers that occur, right? Little whispers that we get to listen to, and being present allows us to hear those whispers and to follow what we need to follow that's designed just for us. So absolutely. And it is a practice, guys. Practice doesn't mean you're going to get it right away, but it's your discipline on a daily basis, which I believe discipline leads to freedom within, and that's an internal freedom. So make that commitment and give that gift to yourself. So important. So important.
Like it's a habit. Like for gaining new habits, what's the best way of doing it? Just, is it being regimental? What would you advise people to, whether it's the meditation or, whatever it is?
Right. It's really important. I mentioned that new habit. You mentioned habits and creating habits. And, growing up, I created habits based upon I'm going to get this done. And I come in from this angry, when I used to compete, in ultra distance, triathlons and mountain biking races and cycling and stuff. It was always about having to do it or proving to myself, because there was an unworthiness underneath all that. So I'd embark on these really crazy endeavors because it was my lack of that was pushing me there, right? I always had to go more. And some people are doing that, and it's great, but I want them to know the purpose on why they're doing it. So if you're coming from an angry, I'm not good enough space, well, you're going to keep getting that. But if you're coming from a place of, I want to be happier, I want to be more fulfilled, I want to climb this next mountain in life, whatever that is, and make sure that I'm falling in love with the journey, not just getting to the top of the mountain. Because so many of us are focused on the goal, getting to the end, crossing the finish line. But with me, my clients in my organizations that I work with, we're really trying to get them to fall in love with the process of being their greatest selves. And I think if we can really get that and say, why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this? Is it bringing me joy? Or am I just trying to prove something that I don't know about, right? We don't need to prove anything. No one is broken, right? Know that you are worthy right now, and you have this opportunity to embark on something that is really powerful, right? And I don't care how old you are. You could be in your 20s, 50s, 60s. This is where it begins, wherever you are right now, because you can't go back and change the past. You can't do that, but you can change your relationship with the past. You can change your perspective on the past. And then you can set these new goals and say, all right, I'm going to just walk. I'm going to ascend. I'm going to get into action, right? Because that's what the universe wants. They want an exchange, an action. And once that happens, then you're going to start to get these beautiful things that come back to you, but in ways that you don't necessarily know that are coming your way, because we let go of the controller and we just trust and open ourselves up. And wow, I mean, it gets pretty remarkable. So absolutely. Get into that action.
No, definitely. I mean, I make sure everything I do, whether it's the reading or the podcast, just I do stuff that I love, but I see so many people and they just chug through life miserable. Yeah. Just to have, whether it's to buy a certain car, buy a certain house or whatever, and they need to switch out of that, because they're missing the point, the point of life. We weren't made to be slaves.
Right. Yeah. Well, what you just said, I mean, you're doing this podcast for that. And I asked, what do you want in 5 years? What is it you desire? Well, I want this house up on this cliff and it's like, no. Come on, let's stop. You can have that. That's cool. I admire that. But what is the underlying ethereal emotions? How do you want to feel on Monday morning? Do you just want to race to Friday again? Do you want to get to the end of the week, or do you really want to enjoy your week? Do you want to love the people that you work with and you meet with and you get to connect with, and the meetings you get to do, and the businesses you get to build, and the family you get to have? And, you know, like those moments are what so many people are missing. And I think if we can slow down and get present and just really listen to what it is we want, what we need, what our heart desires, then guess what? Life is going to be so much more meaningful and more powerful and beautiful for us. We gotta say that we're ready to do this now. So
absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned the weekend. I know a lot of people live for the weekend. If I see someone and I know that they're getting depressed on a Monday morning or a Sunday night, it kicks in, I say you need to reevaluate everything you're doing, because you should never be depressed on a Monday. To me, every day of the week is the same. I just love every day of the week. I do as much, I'm happy in everything I'm doing, and that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be kind of going, I'm doing this, and then you get 2 days off. That's not what it's meant to be.
Yeah, because I'm sure you've been there. You've been in that situation, right? As have I.
I chased the dollar for a while, and it's when you go through a shift, you realize it. And I load of people do that. Something happens in their life, whether it's a relationship or whatever. Sometimes it's a wake up call. And other times it's just listen and don't go through that journey, and you can avoid a lot of pain.
That's right. And that's it. I mean, me myself as well. I mean, I worked in different corporations that I thought were going to make me happy, but there was some missing piece that I didn't know what it was. And it had nothing to do with that company, but it was about me not listening to what it is that I wanted to do. And really diving into that and going, all right, let's do this. This is right here in front of your face, what you should be doing, all your gifts, everything you've been working on your entire life, all that's happened for you. Now it's a matter of pursuing that and having the courage to pursue that, right? Not the fear not to do it, but the courage to pursue. That's it. So.
Listen, Chris, thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I love what you're doing, because I've experienced them all, the breathwork, the meditation, a whole lot, and I think it's really going to help people. So how can people get in contact with you? Yeah,
my website is chrisplourde.com. And like I said, if you want to try out a free breathwork meditation, it's there for you to download. And my Instagram is at Coach Chris Plourde, and a lot of different workshops and virtual classes you can take of mine and retreats that I'm having coming up. So I'd love to see y'all there. So
excellent.
All right.
I'll make sure I put all the links in the podcast description, both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks, Roy. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Right. So that's all for the meditation podcast. As mentioned, you can find all our episodes on meditationpodcast.org. We're also on BitChute and YouTube, and you'll find the links in the podcast description. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating. It all helps. Share with your friends. Until next week, take care.